If you hold up a brand new computer and completely delete every single software application from the desktop, the machine itself does not suddenly cease to exist. The core operating system running silently beneath the surface remains entirely intact, flawlessly executing the mathematical code required to sustain the machine. I want you to lock that exact structural concept into your mind right now, because the most profound philosophical misunderstanding in modern human history operates on this exact same mechanical logic. When I was deeply analyzing the historical etymology of ancient Eastern frameworks, I noticed a massive systemic glitch in how mainstream education categorizes global belief systems. We are conditioned by modern textbooks to view the ancient spiritual sciences of India strictly as a standardized religion called Hinduism. But what if I told you that from a strictly historical, linguistic, and structural standpoint, the label you have been taught is essentially a geographical accident? Today, we are going to completely dismantle this modern cultural label to expose the raw, unfiltered universal code sitting beneath it. We are going to explore the uncompromising reality that Sanatana Dharma is absolutely not a religion in the traditional Western sense. It is the ultimate open-source operating system of the cosmos. Understanding this crucial distinction will fundamentally rewire how you view human existence and modern quantum mechanics. To truly grasp the staggering magnitude of this historical distinction, we first have to rigorously analyze the actual origins of the words we use every single day. I have noticed that most people simply accept historical labels without questioning the source code of language. If you aggressively search through the oldest ancient Sanskrit texts, you will discover an astonishing historical fact. The word Hindu is completely absent from the original ancient scriptures. It simply does not exist in the foundational source material. From a strict historical perspective, the term was originally coined by ancient Persians and early Middle Eastern explorers. When these travelers reached the massive Sindhu River, known today as the Indus River, they possessed a specific linguistic limitation in their native tongue. They pronounced the letter S as an H. Therefore, the people living beyond the Sindhu River were geographically classified as the Hindus. It was a completely external, geographical and cultural identifier created by foreigners to describe a specific region and its inhabitants on a map. Centuries later, during the heavy administrative periods of the British Empire, Western colonizers needed a highly simplified, standardized box to categorize the vastly complex philosophical traditions of the Indian subcontinent for census data. They took an immense, boundless ocean of quantum philosophy, astronomy, neurobiology, and consciousness mapping, and they artificially compressed it into a neat, singular, Abrahamic-style category ending in an ism. They essentially packaged the entire cosmos into a localized cultural box. But when you completely strip away the external geographical labels and the modern colonial packaging, you are left with the pristine, unaltered original framework entirely known as Sanatana Dharma. To understand the absolute scientific gravity of this term, we must look directly at the strict Sanskrit translation. Sanatana translates flawlessly to that which is eternal, without a strict beginning or a definitive end. Dharma is a deeply complex word that does not translate to religion. It translates much more accurately to the inherent law of reality, the absolute natural order, or the fundamental property that sustains existence. For example, the absolute dharma of fire is heat and light. If you completely remove the heat and the light, it fundamentally ceases to be fire. Therefore, Sanatana Dharma does not represent a localized artificial belief system that requires formal conversion. It explicitly represents the eternal, unchanging laws that fundamentally govern the absolute mechanics of the universe. In my opinion, this is exactly where the profound structural analogy of modern systems engineering becomes completely undeniable. Sanatana Dharma is the master operating system of the physical and non-physical universe. It is the underlying invisible cosmic code that dictates exactly how energy, consciousness, and physical matter strictly interact across space-time. The cultural practices, regional festivals, and the geographical label of Hinduism simply represent the beautiful, localized user interface built perfectly on top of that universal operating system. This user interface allows the standard human being to comfortably interact with the massively complex code of the universe. To prove this is not merely abstract modern philosophical poetry, we must strictly analyze how the ancient architects of Sanatana Dharma explicitly codified the fundamental laws of reality, completely mirroring the exact frameworks used in modern empirical science. In classical physics, Sir Isaac Newton explicitly codified the third law of motion, dictating that for every single action in the physical universe, there is always an equal and opposite reaction. If you push against a solid brick wall, the wall simultaneously pushes back against you with the exact same amount of mechanical force. The ancient Indian sages recognized this exact same universal mechanism thousands of years earlier, possessing the immense intellectual capacity to apply this strict physical law entirely to human consciousness. They explicitly codified this underlying operating code as the law of karma. Modern pop culture heavily misinterprets karma as a mystical system of cosmic revenge or a magical universal scorecard. But in the rigorous framework of Sanatana Dharma, karma is simply the absolute, unbiased physics of cause and effect operating on a multidimensional scale. It is a strict mechanical law dictating that every single energetic output generated by your thoughts and physical actions must mathematically produce a corresponding energetic reaction. The universe is not actively judging you. It is strictly processing your inputs and instantly returning the exact calculated output. It is a flawless, self-sustaining, algorithmic loop. Just as you cannot choose to stop believing in gravity to suddenly float off the ground, the ancient sages explicitly stated that you cannot opt out of karma. It is deeply embedded into the foundational source code of reality itself, operating continuously regardless of whether a human being actively acknowledges its existence. Furthermore, this universal operating system heavily details the fundamental architecture of physical matter and consciousness in a way that flawlessly parallels the bleeding edge of modern quantum field theory. When elite modern physicists look deeply into the subatomic structure of reality, they do not find solid, isolated, independent particles floating in an empty, dead void. They strictly find continuous, underlying, unified fields of cosmic energy. The absolute bedrock of modern physics is the undeniable realization that the entire physical universe is an interconnected, undivided whole. A localized electron is nothing more than a temporary, highly energized ripple strictly within a singular universal quantum field. The pristine framework of Sanatana Dharma mathematically codified this exact unified architecture millennia ago through the supreme concept of Brahman. They rigorously describe a singular, infinite, non-dual field of pure existence and supreme consciousness that actively manifests as all physical forms. The localized individual consciousness, categorized as the Atman, is explicitly recognized as being fundamentally identical in nature to the infinite cosmic field. The staggering realization that you are not a separated, isolated biological machine, but rather an active, localized expression of the entire unified cosmos, is the ultimate baseline code of this ancient science. Modern physics provides the strict mathematical equations proving physical unity, while Sanatana Dharma provides the highly advanced philosophical vocabulary and the cognitive tools required to actively experience that unity within the human nervous system. When you begin to actively view this ancient framework through the strict, unbiased lens of cosmic law and systemic engineering, the entire modern debate surrounding religious superiority completely dissolves into absolute irrelevance. You do not need to convert to an operating system. You simply need to realize that you are already functioning completely within it. The ancient rishis were not attempting to build an exclusive global club with strict tribal boundaries. They were supreme cosmic scientists meticulously mapping out the raw, fundamental mechanics of human suffering, biological existence, and universal interconnectedness. They designed specific meditative protocols and rigorous analytical logic, strictly as practical tools to help the human biological processor safely interact with the massive truth of the unified field. By actively understanding that Sanatana Dharma is the eternal law of the cosmos rather than just a localized cultural religion, you completely bypass the artificial limitations heavily imposed by modern colonial history. You begin to recognize that the supreme underlying architecture of reality belongs to absolutely everyone, regardless of geographical location. We live in a highly distracted, fast-paced modern era, where digital algorithms constantly attempt to divide humanity using superficial cultural labels and shallow historical misunderstandings. We have a massive shared intellectual responsibility to break through this heavy digital noise and aggressively push this uncompromising, historically accurate truth into the absolute forefront of human awareness. I need you to completely smash the like button right now, as that specific, deliberate action mathematically forces the system to recognize the supreme educational value of this ancient knowledge. Then go directly into the comment section right now and tell me exactly how this systemic, scientific framework shifts your internal perspective. Does realizing that the ancient world was mapping cosmic law rather than building a standard religion change how you view human history? Make absolutely sure you are heavily subscribed to this educational channel with the notification bell fully activated so you never miss these deep, uncompromising scientific deep dives. Keep your analytical mind razor sharp. Always question the origins of the historical labels you have been taught, and I will strictly see you in the next one.